That's all right. Hello, hello. Your name's on the agenda.
Is it? Maybe it's a good thing I
I just started the audio. Can you please, you test me?
Go ahead.
Test, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, very good.
Sean?
Oh, yeah.
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 Or you-
Yeah, I can hear you talking now, so we're good.
You don't get to sit out here though. Yeah.
Do you mind sitting up there, Joe?
Yeah, I can sit up there where you want.
We're one short.
All right.
Older daughter, she loved her with this beautiful gift. It said, "My daughter, never. Good. And you can even yourself that.
Pass, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can hear you talking. We're good.
Commercial break.
All good?
No, that's a different meeting.
Live like two. Yes. You would create a little this building here. Put it away here.
You sure can be. Here,
Okay,
here, on.
all right,
Recording's on.
okay. All right. Let's dig into this thing. So want me to give you a minute, Joe?
No, you.
Okay. Our first item up on the agenda is discussion of the Public Works Committee makeup and to make a recommendation to the council. So I gave a couple of documents in your packet that you have in front of you. I apologize that I didn't get this stuff out to you ahead of time, but some of this is recycled from this particular item is recycled from last month, so the first thing you have is the appointment and procedures policy in front of you. And that's regarding not only this committee, but the Planning and Zoning and Parks Commission. And the reason I gave this to you is Dill's term on this committee is up and he has served 2 consecutive, so I think what I'm looking for on this is if we want to keep Dill on the committee, to make that recommendation to the city council to waive that requirement that he get off for 1 term and then reappoint him back to the committee. And so is that okay with you, Dill, if we make that recommendation?
That's fine.
I would so move to ask for that waiver from the city council to allow Mr. Stackhour to volunteer for 1 additional term.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make that recommendation to the city council then. With that, see, I think it's set on here. what our makeup is. And so I think right now, I wish Jesse was here because I'd like to get his opinion on this, but,
Tom, the appointments and procedures manual just indicate that the committee is 5 members consisting of 5 from the public.
Mhm.
So that's pretty broad. So now we have 2 city councilors on the committee and 3 members of the general public.
That's right. That's how I understand it. And there's one open seat currently. Now, that's why I was asking the question about the makeup. Do we still want to have 5 citizens on the committee in addition, or simply the 3 that we have? Or,
Well, it says 5 members, and I'm assuming that means 5 members total, including the chair of the committee, I expect is the city council representative, right?
Mhm.
That's what I think it's always been. Joe, you were,
Yeah, correct.
and then 4 members of the general public, I would think would be the traditional way to do this.
Yeah. So that makeup, do we want to go forward with that same makeup, or do you want any change to it?
I mean, this is an advisory committee to the city council. So I think the more members of the general public that you have on the committee, the more, input from the general public you're gonna have,
Okay,
correct? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So would you would like to? I'm just asking your opinion. You'd like.
I would
everybody-
personally, I would like to see another member of the general public, 4 general public members and a city council representative, and the city council representative chairs the committee.
Okay,
That would be
okay.
mine.
Bill, what do you think?
Bill?
Yeah, I think, it seems like part of the problem all along is that we have trouble getting a quorum. If we have too few, it gets more difficult to do that.
Sure.
So I think that'd be a minimum.
Okay. Any thoughts, Joe?
I guess just from our discussion and what we had and at the council level and stuff, and kind of, I'll say, knowing some of the past history before it was like this, when it was just Tom and a couple city council members and the city engineer. Just the information clearly getting to the city council or multiple people from the council on here. There's valuable information that is discussed here that just doesn't make it all the way to the council, no matter how it's sliced or diced or watching a meeting. It's still a miss. Example being WSN last year, you guys remember when they came in, brought in Mark Halen, did that nice presentation on kind of the whole water tower and the corridor down there with the city owned, it was more than a water tower presentation. You guys know what I'm talking about. That was very valuable information, and without bringing in those folks again, more expense to the city. At least having all that we can have is up to 2 members, but at least having a second member from the council here to also hear firsthand, understand, and be able to ask some questions is valuable. Just because trying to communicate that without duplicating a whole presentation every time like that just gets really tricky. And I guess though that's just a prime example of just kind of what I've seen from the council level or experienced, also to, not that we all have our different appointments and committees, but like the road stuff that we're talking about and the road bonds and stuff, we're all getting asked questions and it becomes more of you know, how do we make this efficient for Tom moving ahead? How do we get some insight? You know, how does Tom keep multiple people up to speed too? So that's where I see the benefit of having two council people on here would be my opinion. I'm definitely not opposed to anybody from the outside coming in or what that number is. If it's 3, if it's 5, if it's 7, whatever. Like you said, that's great to have public input, but I would like to see probably 2 council members here for the information going through clearly. Is kind of my take on it from that side.
Sure. So I also put in your packet, my thoughts on that, Public Works Director recommendations, and so kind of I go into a little bit of the history of it, and to me, the purpose of this committee has been to recognize the need for and develop projects that address the need in the most reasonable and complete way possible, all while looking at ways to make these projects as affordable as reasonably possible for citizens in Nisswa. To me, there might be a core committee that would kind of, as Joe was outlining earlier, where there's the Public Works Director, the city engineer, and the 2 council members. A report from these meetings would then become a part of the Public Works Department Council report. And I would call that the core of the committee. And the purpose of that group is to take a huge volume of public works needs and information and distill it down to a manageable, coherent project possibility that can be vetted by the whole committee. And I would consider what we have here the whole committee, and ultimately approved by a city council. So what I kind of see happening is that we have this core group that has what I would call working sessions, where we take a whole range of things that the city needs to work on, and we bring forward to this committee things that have kind of been worked on a little bit, a little more complete. And then this committee would serve as that public input into what we want to do. And we would get it from you or audience members at that time, and those would be the meetings that would be set up more like this. Otherwise, the other ones would be probably held just in the conference room where we just start to look at things. Like if we were looking at a couple of concept drawings or something, I don't think we need to have a big public works meeting necessarily for that in a lot of cases. Now, I could be wrong. This is my opinion. I'm looking for a little bit of efficiency. But I do think we need a committee like this for things like the public information meetings that we had a couple months ago, where we say we've got a road project that's about ready to be put out for bid. You need a place where citizens can come and have their input into what we're going to do with their individual roads. And yet you need more time than what's available at a regular council meeting, because you might take up to 2 hours just talking about that one project. And so that's kind of an idea I had. Now, that might seem too complicated, and maybe that's not how we address this, but just some thoughts that I had, and I would like to. Dale, it looks like you have some thought on that.
How do you see your role then, as far as what you do here and then present to the council? I mean, to me, that's your job.
Right.
So is there going to be a need to have two or three of you doing that, or can't one do that?
I think what's happening to me is we talk about a lot of detail things at this level. And when we get to the council meetings, what has my experience has been is I give a report. It's usually a quick executive summary of what we've talked about here. And I'll say the committee recommends doing X. And I found that that's not good enough for a lot of the council members. And so they start digging into the details of what we've already gone through in this group. And so they're second guessing your recommendation. And so I don't know if I'm not putting enough information into the report, but yet at the same time, if I do that, do we have a half an hour for the Public Works Director's report in the council meeting? Because that's what it would take for me to give them enough detail to satisfy what I think is the need. So it's
So
my
you
way.
think having somebody like Joe or somebody
Yeah. so
additional could help you
My
clarify?
feeling is that we already have the chairman on the council. He's here, and so he's usually hearing it. If we've got a second member, now there's two. And so when we get to the recommendation from this group, they should be able to say, this is the recommendation of the committee. We believe it's in the best interest of the city, whatever. Maybe they add a little color for a couple minutes. And then the rest of the council needs to take that and run with it. And if they had questions, they should be coming either to myself or the engineer outside of the meeting, outside of the council meeting. And dealing with those details.
It's kind of a fine line though, because
It really is.
in a way you could do away with this if you're gonna already have three of you here.
Well, that was another option that I have explored and, depending on who you talk to, you get a varying opinion that maybe, especially with these big projects like the road projects, maybe those should be council workshops so that all the council is up to speed and so that they all have to pay attention and know the details. Some of the council are very interested in that, some are not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, where do you go?
And maybe if I can, I'll just try and, a little clarity or whatever. The current time that we're in the city of Nisswa, we have a lot of projects going on too. What myself as council member, and I've spoken, in great detail to Jesse and kind of our workshop amongst the council is, it's just the time we live in. People can put something out on social media, any Facebook, whatever, and it's just not accurate information. And that is also to what we're trying to combat. I directly am getting contacted on a daily basis from citizens, like, let's just take something with the road thing and going, this is what I just got. This is an email that I just got. I gladly share some of the exact stuff with anybody that wants to see it that I'm getting back from the public and just going, yeah, that's just not accurate. That's just false. And for us as council members also to help support staff like Tom and our partners with WSN and stuff too, and go, hold on, time out. Public perception, that's not what's happened. That's not what's going on. Unfortunately, there is a handful of people in this town, in this community right now that just really want to spin up just flat out lies and false information. And so the more clarity to come unified as a council and be like, yes, we all know this to be true. I was at the meeting, you were at the meeting, we were at the meeting, we were with Tom. Let's move ahead. I find great value in having, people like yourselves being part. You guys got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. I definitely want to have that public input into it. But on the backside, as a council member, this is to really help support staff and WSN, making sure that the accurate information is getting out there, and that in this day and age, we're hearing it kind of out of the horse's mouth as much as we can right now. Is to sum it up. Another thing too that I'll just add, even like yesterday I got the email again from that sorry, I pronounced his name, Starbird's office from about the deadline. It's March 6th. We got an email, hey, there's some federal money available. Do you guys have ideas for projects that we could kick back right away? But the window was really short in time, where like if Tom could call a little group of people and say, hey, should we put 1, 2, or 3 projects and send this back out right away? Not as like a vote on, but just getting a little opinion on things like that are short time frame that we briefly talked about at the last council meeting, where it just doesn't have enough time to turn around in a full meeting. It's nothing earth shattering, but like, what do we do? So if other things like that pop up, it seems like more frequently, where it's like, we have, well, like this one, we have until March 6th to figure out a couple projects maybe to send out there if we wanna try and get some federal funding for. So that would be just kind of another point, but I don't know if that helps clarify or make sense, but that's kind of from my point of view.
Well, maybe it's time to revisit the policies or the appointment procedures policy. You know, I think you get to a point, you know, with the direction we're going is to where, you know, you're trying to streamline the process somewhat. But you get to the point where you question, okay, how important is public input to what's going on at these meetings, which are strictly advisory to the city council? Maybe you go back and you readjust your policy to have two city council members on there, but you keep it to where you know, 4 or 5 members of the general public. Let me ask this, what are the other committees doing? Are they typically having 2 city councilors at their meetings?
They each have one.
Okay, so what makes
No,
this one
well,
different?
No, actually, like the liquor committee now, 2, there's 2 on there, 2 on the personnel,
That's true.
be 2 on this. So actually, no, multiple
So you're
arguments.
getting to a point where you're having more than one city council member on these advisory committees.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. So, you know, like that, for just a multitude of reasons, you know, even the last several months, yesterday, you know, another phone call with the city attorney just about stuff and how we should be doing stuff. Once again, just the real drive out there is to make sure that it's accurate and focused. Now, to your point though, Tom, I believe you asked how important public input is from my point of view. We want it, yeah, that we want to know what people think about this, because also 2 people are going, hey, I knew nothing about this. I never had a chance to say. I don't want that, you know, so I want the public input. At the same time, though, to Tom's point in streamlining stuff, do we need the advisory board to go, hey, should we replace the pump in lift station #1 with the exact same pump we had last time, or should we try the new model? Maybe that's a question where Tom, you know, just dumbing it
Just
down a little bit.
technical.
Yeah, just maybe a technical question. Do you guys have any, you know, I'm just looking for a little feedback. This is what I think I do, where he could call, you know, just a couple people. It's not really something to vote on, but if he has just a minor question or something like
Sure.
that, where it doesn't necessarily take 7 people to figure out what pump to buy, more of a question, hey, you know, do you think we should do this? You know, of course, by Tom asking a couple of this, okay, yeah, maybe this what, okay, then he still has to prepare the paperwork to go to the council to get it voted on and approved. It's not like that's an approval thing, but you know, should I go this route or this route to prepare something like that for the council?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even have to talk to us.
Right.
That's something he
And
can
then
do on his own.
that's fine tuning the, you know, what the agenda is going to be for whatever committee you're
Right.
talking about, be it Public Works or.
And yeah, and have this committee do more, the real meat and potatoes of the issues going on in town and some of these smaller things, you know, if that's accurate based upon what we've talked about.
It can be. So lift station pumps, for instance, the typical cost of those is $30,000. Spending limit for my position is under 10. And without a city administrator here now, granted, we have an interim, but hers, I believe, is up to 10. So if I could bounce that off of a small group with a couple council members on there, now I have some support that, yes, this was an emergency. Yes, we needed to do this. So that would be one way that would be helpful. And then there's a streamlining thing, kind of like what Joe's alluding to too. Like when we were working on the recycling, for instance, we bounced that thing back and forth between this committee and the council, I don't know how many times. And it just seemed like it was just a decision that was being avoided. And what we ended up doing, I think, is probably where we were gonna end up, which was just eliminating the recycling. And we gave a lot of people a chance to reply to that. And I wonder, from my own thinking on this is, you know, your council members are elected representatives. Why isn't, on any of these issues, why can't they be called if you have an opinion on it or question, or even call me, you know, for the details, you know, the technical stuff, they can call me, they can call the engineer, or call me and I'll talk to the engineer with their question. But I feel like sometimes we go to such a great length to get public involvement. And I don't want to say that we don't want that, but how much of it, you know, to what detail do we want that? And how do we make that so that they feel like they're getting their questions answered? But it's not just sucking up huge amounts of people's time.
You think having this subcommittee of yours would help that?
It might, I just feel like this, our full committee doesn't have to meet every month. We already don't meet every month. But I kind of pick and choose when I feel like we have a full agenda to meet. But I'd say probably of the 12 months in a year, maybe this committee only needs to meet 6 to accomplish what we're working on.
But this core committee, or whatever you wanted to call it, that wouldn't necessarily have to meet every month. That
No, it
could
may
just
not
meet
have to
when you
meet every
needed
month.
it.
Just as
Right.
needed, yeah.
It mostly would be just, you know, because it consists of the engineer, myself, and 2 council members. Maybe you have a couple of citizens from this committee on there. And you call them and whoever can make it makes it. You
Yeah.
know, you're hoping that the 2 council members for sure can make it, and then,
In other words, you don't have to have the public there. Is that the idea?
right, because
But
for me,
that's the
if
main
I
thing.
have to have this meeting, I have to notice it in the
Yeah.
paper, and there's no quickness to that. There's no turnaround. If all we're doing is advising the council, and this is probably a question for the city attorney, you know, how can we do some of what we are doing in here and not have to have it be the public meeting with the public notice and the time limits?
I understand that.
Well, it's called a democratic process. You know, to give people an opportunity to have input into whatever decisions are being made. You know, and frankly, it's up to the city council when, you know, this is it, you know, we've had enough. We've, you know, in our decisions, we will take public input, but, you know, it gets to the point where, okay, that's enough. We've had enough and now we're gonna make a decision. But, you know, that recycling center, yeah, that was a good example of, you know, things being kicked back and forth and back and forth. And I think in the end, the city council did what they did based on how they felt that the general public was, you know, reacting to the ideas. That's part of, you know.
And so maybe here's my question that I'd like to know. Let's take the recycling, because I came in on the tail end of it
Yeah.
and voted to get rid of it. But when I had learned before I'd got on council, even what had transpired, and that this had been kicked around for 2 years period of time, and that this survey had gone out and this meeting had gone out. And at that time, I had asked our current city administrator at that time, and Tom too, you know, kind of, we have been dealing with this 2 years, trying to make a decision ultimately on where we're putting a dumpster. And we spent tens of thousands of dollars kicking that decision around for 2 years. And from my viewpoint, I would have made that decision a year and a half, 6 months, because ultimately by making no decision, when everyone comes in here, I want to keep my taxes lower. I want to keep my property taxes lower, but I also want a voice. Well, where's the balance? That was a prime example of just wasted money because that got drug out. way too long, way too far. It was, we're gonna set a dumpster here, here, or take it at home and do it, because it was getting abused by everybody that didn't even live in our community.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the city was paying, for garbage service for everybody outside of our city. And so that was a real easy decision. And I look back at it and go, that 2 year period of time, all that did was cost taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars of additional money that was unnecessary. And so that would be a direct thing. Stuff like that would be on my objective to streamline and not to repeat again in the future.
I wonder if some of these issues would, if there would be, if they could be identified as, you want to keep them moving.
Right.
You know, maybe it's second meetings or in the same month, or I'm just saying, I'm looking for ideas or suggestions, because that was a big problem with that. And one of the other things I've talked to you about, and I probably talked to a few others about, is one of the biggest complaints I get is how much we spend on engineering. And it's not really necessarily a fault of the engineer. It's, so we start a project, say like the 25 road bond. We started looking at that back in 2022. And what ends up happening is it starts to straddle councils. You know, so the council changes, opinions change. And we end up restarting the engineering over and over on the same project. We can't seem to keep this moving. Once we've initiated it, it'll stall, either because there's a lack of interest in the council, or they're busy with something else, and so then when we come back to it, now we have to start over with a lot of what was already done. And I've tried to explain that to certain people, and they just don't get it. They feel like somehow we're being wasteful, and it's come from even members of this committee. You know, it feels like, well, we're redoing the survey. Well, it's been 3 or 4 years since we did the last survey. And it's like, well, there might be some new information we need to get. And so I've been trying to figure out how I can help move the processes along so that that doesn't happen. I think we tend to let a good decision go by the wayside, looking for a perfect decision where we get every last person's opinion, every last committee rendering an opinion on something. Where is that always necessary? And when do we decide when it is and when it isn't? And I don't know. I'm struggling with it, because I don't want to tell anybody that their voice doesn't matter.
Right, no, for sure, but you hit it on, it's a democratic process, like you said, Tom, you hit the nail on the head. That has not been clearly defined in Nisswa. You guys both know government, worked in it, whatever. I would say if you truly knew the inner workings on what has gone on in the recent years within the city and kind of currently going on, and what we've got as obstacles to work through, you guys would be appalled. Also too, I myself, I value, people like yourself with experience. I'd ask you, you guys have a lot of experience. What would be the best thing? Cause that's ultimately what Tom's trying to do, myself, the council. What would be a good democratic process to put this through so it doesn't drag out for 2 years, it doesn't waste? Here's our SOP on, we meet once, we open up the public, the third meeting, we have to have a decision made, or it's off the table, and kind of get some sort of repetition on, this is how we like to operate, take on a project in the city. Just like what Tom said, even when new councils come in, my first question when I became a council member that I asked everybody, I said, okay, I'm a new council member. Where's the packet of stuff? I'm filling this person's job, just like, coming in. Where did they leave off on stuff? What's the current update on all this stuff? Where's this information? What what has been voted on, like, where are we at? Nothing. That doesn't exist to hand off to another council within the city. So like Tom said, when it kind of repeats, like, even though the job changes, to try, and my goal would be to try and get some sort of sequence going. So if a new council person comes in here, working with the staff and the city administrator and our contractors and committees like this, that there is that democratic process. And so if you guys have a way, you know, or an idea, I think that's what this kind of is about, you know, and I'd love to hear that, you know, if you guys have any insight into that.
You mean right now?
No, but
I'd have to
but
think
that's,
about it.
I'm just trying to talk openly. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's kind of the nuts and bolts of where we're at. That's what I see. That's what I see. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody currently or in the past. It's just, it's been broken. It's been broken for quite a while, meaning, if I go down the Crow Wing County, in my line of profession, I get a lot of permits. If I go down the Crow Wing County and even sit through a variance hearing down there, and the cadence of the meeting and do and answers and questions, and boom, you're out the door, and there's no who's on first, what's going on. That level of professionalism just doesn't exist in Nisswa, and I want to bring that in. We need to bring that in, but some people just don't know it's missing.
Yeah.
And so, I want to bring that in all across the board. I'm not knocking planning and zoning or anything, but that's the easiest thing that I can relate to. You know, I tell people, go to one of their meetings, come to one of ours, tell me if there's any difference. It's like night and day.
I think you gotta be careful when you know, start comparing things, that a lot of that is state statute. They have to do it this way.
And so do we. We're not.
Well, I think most of, you know, what we're talking about right here, right now, is policies that are adopted by the city, that they're not, you know, statutory. This is the way the city council wants to operate Public Works, you know, committee. So, you know, things change. So if things have changed to the point where you want to change it, then that's a matter that the city council has to discuss. I think we've probably said everything there is to be said about this, but I think the important thing is, if you think that you need more than one city councilor on this, then do it.
Mhm.
If you think that it's important to get the public involved with this, you know, then, you know, maybe have, you know, one additional city councilor on it, and, you know, 3 or 4 members of the public.
Mhm.
Just, you know, because in the end, you know, we're talking about public input, hopefully from people that have some experience in, you know, whatever we're talking about, in this case, Public Works, to add to the discussion that the city councilors are having.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It does. And, you know, then also from my point of view too, you know, like Dill, you already hit this on the head too, kind of like, we have a problem getting a quorum or getting people here. And that's just something that I've noticed from my time on whatever group it is. I've been on the liquor committee, I've been on planning zoning, this committee, different things. It seems like we want the city input or whatever, but on each and every one of those, then too, it's just like, you're on the committee, and, you know, I'm not knocking any one person, but it's like, I haven't seen that person in 6 months, 7 months. And that just seems to be an issue that I would want to address as a policy too, that sometimes, quite honestly, we've been up against, you know. We've allowed these openings to the public. They sign up for something and they never show up. And from my point of view, that's not fair. That's frustrating to other people. You know, that's, I guess, I don't know. Just something that I've witnessed.
I think from a practical standpoint, though, we need a little bigger committee. We found that out before. You know, in the summer, people are doing things.
In order to get a quorum.
Yeah, just to get a quorum.
Well, we could certainly add at least one,
Yeah,
because we're down one.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying a whole lot, but we've had that problem continually.
When I notice any of you that there's a meeting, is there anything I should do different so that you feel like you've got the right notice to that there's a meeting coming?
No, I'm fine.
Do you think I should make phone calls or something, or?
No, but for me, it's fine. Everybody uses the internet for everything, you know.
Yeah, I know that no one person, but I think sometimes I feel like my emails are getting lost or something, and that, you know, that's why I followed up with you guys with a second email, just to ask if you were gonna be here or not. Maybe I need to send those out as, I need a response when you get the agenda, that you're gonna be at the meeting or not. I think I'd like to
That's a
have
good idea.
that.
Good idea.
That way I, you know, cause we all need to be gone for things, right? And that's fine. So. I
That'd be
think we'll
fine.
have to figure that out. And then being this is an advisory committee, I'm not sure why, this is a question probably for Tom Pearson, and I don't know, maybe Tom, you know, why do we need to have a quorum? I mean, I obviously don't wanna have just one person, but I mean, if that's the person that shows up, I guess they make the decision, right? I mean, if the meeting's been properly noticed and everybody was asked. This isn't the council.
I don't know if that's like a Robert's Rules type of thing, you know, where you have a public committee and you're with a certain number of members and to make a decision or to make a recommendation that you need, you know, a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good question to ask the city attorney.
I mean, if we go through the effort and we get another person on this committee, we have the two council members here. I would say most time we're gonna get three people here, cause if we have five total people here to not get three showing up,
Yeah.
there's a bigger problem.
That's right.
Trying to put together a recommendation for the council so we can move forward.
What would your recommendation be at this point?
Right now, I know we need to fill the vacant spot, so I would move to advertise for that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we have is we're gonna confirm or get the waiver for Dill and get him confirmed back to the committee so that we can stay at some, you know, keep our strength that we have. Beyond that, the other recommendation I would have is that we continue with two council members. I think that's helpful because they're all busy people and they have stuff, and if this way we ensure that we can at least get one of them here most of the time, I think that's helpful. Beyond that, I don't know if we have to, like Joe's saying, have an SOP for these projects, how they come to this committee, how they move from this committee through the council. So that, you know, within so many meetings, some action has to have been taken.
Yeah.
You know, there's a drop dead. Do you approve this? Maybe it's just as simple as, can we approve this project tonight?
Yeah.
And if they can't approve it, then it starts over, and then there's record that it started over, so that when we have additional engineering fees or legal fees, that well, this is why, because we had to start over. Maybe that's trying to be a little too strict on it, but I don't, you know, the other issue I get, and this is something that just occurred to me, a lot of citizens will say, well, nobody told me. I didn't know there was a meeting. Well, heck, we have it advertised everywhere, and there has to be some public responsibility to check in with their city too. I mean, I can't mail out things every time. That's financially impossible. You know, so I think this is probably some education for the council, that when they get those kind of questions or comments from citizens that, well, this is where you can find what's going on in the city. You have some responsibility to do some, if you are interested in what the
Right.
city's doing, to look.
That's part of the democratic process.
Is
Well,
it-
yeah, absolutely, because I mean, I'll even take the item agenda number 4 that we're going to talk about tonight. Once again, I've probably heard from greater than 20 people in the community, the citizens, downtown business owners, all up in arms about what in the world's going on. Item number 4, as we sit here and look now, where are all the people?
Yeah,
But they are, after this meeting takes place by tonight, I will guarantee you within 24 hours, I'll get all the, oh, Councilman Hall said this, member, Tom said this, Dill said. It's, what? That didn't take place. Show up here, be involved, come up to the mic, ask questions. It's just a whole different world when you can have a keyboard warrior and sit there, but from today's meeting, within 24 hours, we will have misinformation about every one of us, something that was talked and communicated tonight, but yet there is nobody in the chairs. And kind of laugh, but that reality is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, I mean, this one issue, item number 4, I got a thing that had probably the large majority of all the downtown business owners on from a couple weeks ago. Like, I mean, the whole town, again, up in arms about what's going on here.
Mhm.
Not one person here, not one. But yet they'll call Tom and they'll just attack Tom. I didn't know. What are you guys doing?
On this issue?
Accusatory. I mean, it's actually kind of crazy what goes on.
I've had one person on this issue contact me.
Right,
To her credit,
right.
she asked questions. That's why we issue these agendas. That's why we put out the information. And
is it legally necessary to have the public at our meetings? Is it?
Yes, yes, it's an open meeting. So the liquor committee is an open meeting. All of these committee things are open to the public. They all need to be open meetings recorded. The public can join anyone. It's public information.
Okay,
Yeah.
I guess what I was getting at is we go through all these efforts and I've had, by no means all, but we have had a select few council members who will back somebody up when they say, nobody told me. You can watch these on YouTube. I mean, that's the most common app on anybody's device. There's no excuse for, I don't know. I mean, if you've heard about it, check it out. I mean, that's what I would suggest, but I would hope in the future that our council would say that. Come to these meetings, just like Joe was saying, come up to the microphone, say something. If nothing else, pass a letter to one of your council members and let them say it. But we don't get that, so.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it's resulted in this kind of thing where we talk about, is this the right makeup for this committee? Is this how we want to run this? Because it seems like there's an inefficiency here and we're, like you've said, Tom, we've kicked this around for a while now. Sorry, Bill, you said it earlier too. We talked about this several months ago and here we are talking about it again. And we've talked about it at the council level a couple of times. So maybe it's not a problem with the committee, maybe there's something else. Kind of to close this out, do any of you feel there's a recommendation to make to the council other than filling the vacant spot?
Yeah, I don't know if, looking at the policies as you have them right now, if, these are practices, they can change, based on what the city council wants to do. If you need to necessarily say, like for us, that the Public Works Committee shall consist of 2 city councilors and, 4 members of the public or 3 members of the public, whatever. Or if it can just be general like this and just say 5 members, consisting of 5 from the public. I mean, that could be 2 city councilors and 3, members of the public. Yeah. And I guess your other committees and commissions are doing kind of the same thing. There's more than one city councilor on it. I'm just trying to keep this in, what we're talking about, what we have responsibility for here. A
Right.
lot of the things we've been kicking around are, they're big picture stuff, but
Kind of, I'm sorry, Tom, I don't. mean
I
to
was just
interrupt.
gonna say, when you get right down to it, what we have, responsibility for is who are we? What do we consist of? And that's what I think we should focus on, and that's a city council decision as to, where do they want their advice coming from? Recognizing that, it is a good thing that more than one city councilor would sit at this meeting. So you have two sets of ears, 2 brains that are kind of, processing this information. But on the other hand, it's good to have, if you have some good people sitting on the committee that care about what they're doing, that they have input into the process. So it's you don't want to get too big, but you don't want to streamline it to the point where it really doesn't make much sense anymore to even open it up to the public.
Mhm.
Especially, if you can't even get a quorum.
Great, yeah, that's.
It's
the
one
whole
of
thing.
those, yeah,
That issue with the quorum, it's not just with this committee.
no, yeah,
I've seen that across the board with the
Yep.
city, and so that's where too, it's difficult for me when, like I say, the keyboard warriors out there are doing all this stuff, but yet nobody's stepping up, nobody's quorum, everybody's the armchair quarterback sitting out there somewhere, but they're not here tonight. They're not helping get a quorum. They're not getting involved. And I don't think that's unique to Nisswa. It's our current culture.
yeah, it is.
Everybody complains about number 4.
Right, but
No, I mean,
It-
they
it-
complain about it, but you don't
It-
come to the meeting.
right, exactly. And so my thing is like, well, great, you're just complaining to complain, whatever. I see a group like this, like, thanks for all these complaints going on after the meeting, after whatever, just, but you're just complaining, but you're not offering a solution, any sort of advice coming up here, giving your input. I really want to take that in and understand their point of view, but if they're not here, I have seen that stall stuff out, and that's what I'm saying for myself. You had the chance, stall it out, make a decision, move on to play.
I think your responsibility ends at doing your due process,
Right.
allowing people their input, but at some point in time, decision has to be made.
Right,
And it's the people sitting at this desk that have to make that decision. Whether to stall it out or just to say, okay, we've heard from the public, let's make a decision.
right.
I think one thing I can do that might help a little bit. So what I've been doing for the city council is their council report is laid out by here's the projects that we're working on. This is what's happened in the past month with it. And I keep it on there month after month. And if nothing happens, I just say that nothing's happened. So they always see it. So we're always coming back to that. Maybe that's what we need to do here is here's the list of the projects that we've been working on, and if they're not resolved, finished, they stay on that list, and at the beginning of the meeting, I'll just go through that and say, 26 road bond, here's where we're at, 27 road bond, here's where we're at. So lift station, here's where we're at, and maybe if the rest of the committee members are aware where these projects are sitting, more than just myself, you bring some pressure to bear on that so that it keeps moving.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Right, well, so I guess in the recommendation I'm gonna do is that we're going to advertise for the empty chair. We're gonna keep the second council member coming. And then we're going to get Dill's seat renewed.
Waiver for Dill.
Okay. I don't know if we should, probably just a quick vote on that. All in favor of that? I'll make that as a motion. A second.
So move, or second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Just a relief.
That was painful. I apologize, but, our next item is, we have minutes from August, September, October, December of 25 and January of 26. Now, I know that, this is probably the first you guys have seen some of these. It's okay if we table this for approval till next month. I've given you hard copies of those tonight. Unless you feel you could move.
I would move to table them. I would like to read them before. So I would move to table them till your next meeting.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, our next item is the number 4. Review the intersection treatments for Main Street and City Hall Street. So with this item, I'll transfer over to Widseth. Bill, I don't know if you would like to get started. We have a brief presentation that will explain some concepts that we have for treatment for this intersection, and we'll get some comment once we finish the presentation.
Thank you, Tom. So what we've done here is, as part of the council approved moving forward with a preliminary design of City Hall Street and Church Street, mainly because there's some complexities in it that require a little bit more examination and a little bit more preliminary engineering, I guess you'd say. So that's what we're working on right now, is just portions of City Hall Street and Church Street. And as part of that, it was, the intersection with City Hall Street, Nisswa Avenue, Lower Cullen Road, and Main Street. So we had to look at that as part of this preliminary design. So what we're showing here is just the existing conditions that are at that intersection. Some of the stuff that we talked about, or we've talked about, is that everybody knows that intersection is at a skew. There's long distances between the radius for pedestrians to walk. It's the alignment of the roads really don't line up. So the through lanes don't line up across the roadway for Nisswa Avenue and City Hall Street. The intersection is a two-way stop. So right now, City Hall Street and Nisswa Avenue have to stop. The sight distances on that road, looking when you're stopped to see traffic, oncoming traffic in both directions, are not very good. A lot of times you have to pull forward in order to see the oncoming traffic. The Paul Bunyan Trail crosses the intersection about, 40 feet east of Lower Cullen Road and Main Street. There's parking along, basically parking along all 4 of the roadways. Some of it's parallel parking, some of it's diagonal, and some of it is 90-degree. Let's see, what other things do we... Oh, the roadway intersection, or a lot of this roadway, is fairly flat. So there is some drainage problems in there, like at the intersection or by the post office. A little bit of a problem over by the chamber building and other places in the intersection because it's so flat. There's concrete walk along parts of the roadway, or along the east and west side of Main. It's kind of a disjointed sidewalk system along City Hall Street. There's bits and pieces of sidewalk along Nisswa Avenue on the south side, and Lower Cullen Road has sidewalk on the east side of the roadway. The Main Street Ale House has sidewalk on their side of the road. I don't know if it's really sidewalk, it's just a paved sort of area between their wall and the back of curb. They also have a kind of a ped ramp to go up from the sidewalk or the corner of the street up towards the building to a doorway. Some of the other stuff is, so as part of this too, we're looking at the pickle parking lot and just how it or kind of mixes in with City Hall Street. Everybody knows City Hall Street and the pickle, there's really no defined area that defines the parking area in there. It's kind of an open sea of pavement. And there's what, 3 rows of parking in there with perpendicular parking. Right now, I think the city plows all the snow to the north end, piles it up there. And there's 4 bocce ball courts between the pickle parking lot and the DNR property. Actually the little ditch or whatever's right in there, of which I believe 2 of them are being currently used. So what we came up with based on these existing conditions, we came up with the next, with this option here, which is called basically a traditional intersection. The idea with this one is that it basically just introduces, keeps it basically the same, tries to pull the radiuses closer together so you decrease the distance for pedestrians to walk across, like at a crosswalk. So like across Nisswa Avenue, and Lower Cullen Road and Main Street. What we also did was we introduced a kind of a channelized right turn for northbound Main Street as it intersects Nisswa Avenue and City Hall Street. So it kind of gives the driver if somebody wants to go west or eastbound on City Hall Street, they can make that turn basically without stopping. And it'd be a yield condition at City Hall Street, but I believe it, and then it creates a that channelized or that divider, that median creates a kind of a rest area for the pedestrians so that they don't have to walk quite as far to get from one corner to the other. So what we're also doing is showing a median in the middle at the Paul Bunyan Trail so that if pedestrians are trying to cross going from, you know, north to south across City Hall Street, they have a place that they can, if traffic is bad, they can wait there. Let's see what other. So what we're also proposing to do is add concrete walk along both sides of Nisswa or City Hall Street, mainly from Church Street all the way to Lower Cullen Road or Main Street, to basically kind of move traffic from Church Street towards Main, and basically a safer pathway for the people to walk on. And then we're creating a median between, or kind of the divider between City Hall Street and the pickle parking lot. It kind of helped define the parking lot better and help separate the parking lot from the roadway. And then as part of that, we're realigning the connection between the pickle parking lot and the parking area that's just to the east of the Chamber building. And then as part of that also, like I said, we're making connections with the crosswalks that cross that intersection. See, we're proposing to put sidewalk along the south side of Nisswa Avenue and the north side, and extending that to the east. The idea there is that we want to be able to have the pedestrians get out of their vehicles and walk to the sidewalk so that they're not walking in the street because there's no sidewalk for them to be on. But with this, they have that, they can get off of the roadway. Same issue on the north side of Nisswa Avenue. Right now, there's no sidewalk, there's no curb, there's kind of a jagged edge, low area basically. So we can build that up and extend that sidewalk down towards that business. I don't remember what the name of it is, but it's the white building. And then make that connection. The other thing is extending the sidewalk along Lower Cullen Road and basically creating a curb with sidewalk behind the curb, kind of going towards to the west, for pedestrians to walk on there too. Same concept. We'd like for them to walk towards the sidewalk instead of behind the cars.
Mm.
And then extend that sidewalk where we were proposing to extend it to the property line of what the History Center is using. But the History Center actually would like for it to even extend even further to the north to go as far as it can go. Or they thought that would be a good idea.
Hmm.
Let's see. The other thing is with the side, we're gonna end up replacing some of the sidewalk on the east side of Lower Cullen Road to kind of match in with the profile and stuff like that with the roadway. And there's a slight geometric change on that side too. As part of this project, we kind of looked at the option of doing something with the pickle parking lot. If we expand the pickle parking lot to the west towards the Paul Bunyan Trail, we might be able to get additional parking stalls there that would similar concept as along Lower Cullen Road and other places is so there'd be a sidewalk there so that if people were parking there to go to downtown, they could get out of their cars, walk toward the front of their car, walk down that sidewalk, and then get on the system that would take them to downtown or wherever they needed to go.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, and I see. Our idea with the pickleball, because we've added or not the pickleball, the bocce ball, is we're talking about putting the bocce ball in the corner of that would be the northeast corner of the parking lot, the pickle parking lot, up against the fence for the ball field. And it's trying to fit something in there for them. Trying to think if there's anything else today. Oh, some things, like I said, this was a two-way stop. What we haven't shown on here is that we probably need to check to see if it warrants a four-way stop. One of the things with a four-way stop is that you're gonna have more, people are gonna be stopped there and you're gonna have a little bit more traffic backing up on City Hall Street and Lower Cullen Road because of that.
Bill, is there any property acquisition that's required for this one?
Yeah, I mean, there's areas where there's probably gonna need to be some property acquisition and we need to talk to the DNR about working, if not in their property for the Paul Bunyan Trail, but really close to it. And possibly along Nisswa Avenue and Lower Cullen Road. But they were two of the stakeholders the Historical Society and the Main Street Ale House and the Historical Society was receptible to putting sidewalk there and kind of going outside of the right of way if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a definite no by any means. They really liked the idea of the sidewalk and curb and gutter.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Well, I guess the next thing is if you wanted to
This up, there would be lost parking stalls.
oh, yeah. So what we did is we did a study and we counted the number of parking stalls that are out there and counted the number of parking existing and then counted the number of parking stalls that would be there after the fact. So by expanding the pickle parking lot, I think we added like 32 parking stalls. They're gonna end up losing like 3 parking stalls with this option, mainly by the chamber because of that radius that we're putting in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they're gonna add a bunch just across the highway or just across City Hall Street at the pickle, so it would be fairly close that they could have additional parking. So what we have now,
Can I ask a question about that last one before we move on? So, a common thing you can witness every day is, people going to the ale house or especially the post office, you know, or any of those businesses along that side. People that are headed, I'll say, north, right? And then they need to get to the post office. They will commonly use that wide open intersection right now to swing around and make a U-turn. With this design, how that traffic still has to U-turn somewhere somehow to get back to park, you know, the opposite direction with the angled parking along that side of the street. How would they efficiently do that? Where would they go to get themselves turned around coming back with this design?
Oh, the angle parking on Lower Cullen Road or,
Or like in front of, you know, the ale house or the jewelry store, or the post office or anything? How do people get swung around to get coming back? You know, if that wide open intersection isn't there for them to do a U-turn. I mean, you can put a camera down there. I bet it happens, I don't know, 50 times a day, 100 times a day. I do it twice a day myself, but I just, it's a common thing. All that traffic has to get turned around and come back the other direction for just practical needs every day with people.
I mean, I think what would have to happen is that they would have to find another place to turn around at because it's probably not gonna happen at this intersection with the traditional layout the way we have
You
it.
gotta go down and go down.
You'd have to go down
through
to
the
another
alley
street and turn around and come back.
Yeah, because also too, even if people cut before, if I'm watching this correct, and come up City Hall Street, can they make a left to come down that way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can
okay.
make,
Are they able to do that?
yeah. Because we've laid this out so that somebody that's going northbound on Main can go around that channelized right turn lane, get into the queue for City Hall Street and wait there in order to make a left turn into the pickle. So they can make that turn and go around and go westbound on City Hall Street.
And is that a movement that, are those U-turns something that you want currently? You know, just because they're good, it doesn't mean it's good. So.
Right.
You want-
Are you,
It's just,
Bill, are you talking a two-way stop or a four-way stop?
Right now, we're showing a two-way,
Why?
but well,
Lower column is.
Lower Cullen
straight
right
through.
now is Lower Cullen and Main Street, you don't stop. But this intersection may warrant a four-way stop.
Yeah, I think the pedestrian traffic there, there's no option for four-way stop.
But a four-way stop.
Yeah.
but I would ask, you know, just knowing how that intersection works and whatever, what is that going to do to backing up traffic now that there's a stop sign? I mean, I think
It
that
backs
quick-
up now.
Right, but I think that quick, it's gonna be jammed all the way up, all the way past 18, you know, in the summertime. I guess I would,
Well, is the post office gonna remain there?
it doesn't matter, there's still all the other businesses. The ale house, you know, at noon on any given day, that place is packed out, you know. There's, with or without the post office, there's still a need there, but I would just worry that the amount of traffic going through town, that there's not enough stacking, if that's the right terminology, from that stop line all the way back to Lakers Lane, that, you know, for the amount of traffic that goes through there, there's not enough room to put in a stop sign for the stacking.
Well, I would
Well,
think that's something that evaluating pros and cons. It's
Right.
like, With a four-way stop, you will see that.
Right.
There might be congestion, but it'd be safe. People are crossing, I do it myself.
Oh, yeah.
People are crossing in all directions there,
Mhm.
and it just isn't safe the way it is.
No. I will say this though, or knock on wood a little bit, my whole time on the fire department, I've never actually gone to a car accident or anything or a pedestrian hit or anything at that intersection, so I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm just saying, yeah, you're right, people are just going everywhere, but it seems to work. My question also too would be for Tom. there's no spot to put snow in downtown. Now you have all them curbs, limited restriction to where you push that all to the north. What and how do we do, what and how do we do snow, and what's the financial impact of that? Because right now it's wide open. You can just take that loader and push right through there, but
Well, so, of course, for myself, it's been a little while since I've pushed the snow, but what I normally do with that intersection is I push it up onto City Hall Street, push it through the pickle parking lot to the back,
right,
to the north end.
but we couldn't with this
Um,
configuration. Could we really?
yeah, I would still do it that way. It might take me a little longer because I'm working around the concrete structures that are there, but I would still do it that way.
Yeah.
It's where it needs to go. And the little bit of extra time that we have to spend in the winter time doing that, there's some safety things I would like to do here, and I think this does that. I don't know if this is I think I prefer our second concept that we're gonna look at overall, but it messes up the parking for a few of the businesses, and I understand their concern with that, so. But if we have to use a traditional intersection, one of the things that we have is our sidewalks don't line up. It's impossible for us to put in crosswalks so people feel like they have a place to be if they're concerned about crossing the street. Now, I know a lot of us probably aren't concerned about that, and but there are some who are, and I do get a lot of frequent comments about why can't we have crosswalks there? Well, there's a lot of reasons why that Bill kind of talked about earlier. This is one way that we can get that. I don't see a huge expense changing this, for plowing, just to kind of come back to
Okay.
your question on that, Joe. We plow most of the time early in the morning. There's nobody hardly in town. I think this would be not significant.
Okay.
We created or Bill Newhouser created a video of.
Could we go back just for one more second?
Sure.
So one thing we didn't talk about here, and I know I asked Bill to keep this high level. We are, and you did say something about it being flat and the drainage, so.
Right. Oh, yeah. I was
We
gonna
are
talk about
addressing
drainage
it.
later.
We are addressing drainage, and one of the issues that we have to talk about, with the DNR, in order to gain the parking that we gain with the pickle parking lot, is that ditch would have to be filled. And so we would be installing drain pipe to make that drainage system still work. With that, we're hoping to improve the drainage, that everybody is aware there's a problem in front of the post office and in front of the chamber. But just to be aware that ditch, behind the caboose would be going away.
Well, just to keep on the drainage, then you can see that triangle right there. We're proposing to put a pond to treat the snow melt, dump it in there. We can remove the sediment, discharge the water back into the system. That's gonna eventually keep going to the north towards, what is that, Lower Cullen Creek?
Yeah.
To the
north.
To the north. So that's the concept with the drainage from this intersection area.
One more comment I'll have on that. So the sidewalk in front of the Historical Society, when we talked about that with them, and I've had some other questions about that in the past, extending the sidewalk all the way down to the hardware store. And so I think that would be the ultimate goal with this. I think with this project, we'd only be bringing it as far as the northern edge of the Historical Society's property. But with a future project, we'd bring it the rest of the way down to the hardware store.
Would you do that on both sides?
I think on the east side, I wouldn't want to bring that all at this time. I don't know that I'd bring it all the way down to the hardware store. It could be done that way. I think that's something we'd have to discuss, if what would be the value to doing that.
That would be probably, like you said, a future project.
I think the idea too is that you can always go to the Pole Bunyan Trail 20, 30, 40 feet to the east.
Mhm. At least this would give us a sidewalk to get
Yeah,
down there.
yeah.
I think if I'm the owners of the hardware store, I'd appreciate having people being able to get down just by walking.
So if you want to show the conventional, or actually I think it's listed as normal intersection, like a video that's in there. Oh. So this is just a video in 3 dimensions from our scan that we did a while back. So you're looking north, going through the intersection. You can see the ale house. This is kind of an idea as to what it would look like.
Bill, those concrete structures, you want to talk a little bit about how high they stick up? You know, are they
Well,
something that you could
in the
drive?
conventional intersection, I mean, we can make them as surmountable as you want, but a lot of times these are like a B6, so a 6-inch curb around the intersection with the noses being kind of flattened out, and so that you could, if you lost control, you could drive up on it. And there'd be probably a sign at the nose of these things. But yeah, on this conventional intersection, they would be B6, 18 curb and gutter.
It was one of my questions that I thought about, but now that I see it on the video too, since the ale house would be losing, I'll say all their prime parking right there, would we design it and allow it so they could have some seating out there like what is shown in the video? Is that something that would be entertained or recommended or not recommended or?
We talked to the people at the ale house, the Foys, about this, and they weren't as concerned about having additional seating out in front of the building as we thought they might be. They're more concerned about losing their, whatever parking they might be
Right.
losing.
And even if it's not for them, you know, city property or whatever, just landscape it nice, a bench, you know?
Yeah, right.
It's a big enough area, you know, you could put in a smaller decorative tree, anything like that too, just to enhance the curb appeal. You know, also to that island too, you know, you could, I mean, just dress it up. Another spot to hang Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Maybe do some colored pavement.
Yeah, just something, you know, I mean, just, you're losing it, but rather than just have all concrete, I'd personally like to see it dressed up, you know, a couple benches sitting around there just for the public to sit on and rest. Maybe some trees, maybe landscape versus just all concrete on both sides.
Another option for that, some individuals been interested in wayfinding signs. I don't know if that's a spot you put any of that, in there. I don't know if that's something the city wants to pursue at all with any of these projects, but just another option.
Yeah, I know a lot of businesses, especially, you know, up or down the street there, have talked if they're not on the main drag, it's hard to find, so I think allowing that for businesses there would be a benefit in some manner.
Are you talking about build a drainage pond in,
Where?
well, where would your drainage pond be?
Oh, in the pickle parking lot, see where that triangle is right there?
Okay.
And so we haven't really modeled it
Okay.
quite yet, but the idea would be to fill in that ditch that runs between the pickle parking
Yep.
lot and the,
Trail.
trail there.
Okay.
And then that water would drain up that way, and we can either divert it into the pond or just treat the water in the, or the storm water from the pickle and the snow melt
Okay.
in that pond, and then that can discharge back into the system and then keep going south, and that would be treated water.
Mhm.
Has anybody ever looked, is there enough room between the outfield fence in the DNR property to run that road all the way down, connect in with, you know where I'm talking, where you.
Yeah, I
use
do.
the
What is it,
Um,
Murray Road? or
Yeah,
something?
Murray Road, to just tie that little section together too, to give another outlet that way out of the parking lot.
What I was looking at is when we were talking about the possibility of, a pickle, a new pickle building,
Right,
that might be another access into there.
right.
What would be in the way potentially is, the power line that's back there.
Mhm.
That's kind of a main feed line. It's coming into the transformer, between us and between the city hall building and the pickle. It's.
Yeah,
It's a pretty significant line feeding that. We might have to reconfigure that pole or move that pole to accommodate a pass through there if you were ever wanting to do that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, you know, in doing this, if we create more congestion, that could be possibly a way to relieve the congestion. on
Well, you
this
wouldn't have to go
intersection.
all the way down if you want. I mean, you could, I don't know how that, you'd have to talk to the DNR about crossing there. Paul Bunyan
Another
Trail,
Crossing.
So I think
curve
there's,
it back on the main.
what Joe's talking about there, I think there's a road right away that extends all the way through to.
Yeah.
It's on the east side of the
Right.
trail.
Yeah,
But then you'd bring all the congestion into to the intersection. Right?
no, it'd be
Into
a.
the parking lot of the pickle, is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah, or another relief out there is people back out, you know, if that pickle parking, I'm just thinking practically, we're taking some parking out of downtown. We're hoping by putting the sidewalk now and moving it over to the pickle, it's just gonna make that parking lot more congested. And it's emptying, once again, without a lot of stacking room coming out of there,
Coming
you know,
out
out
where-
of there, and it's
Coming
gonna
out of
create,
Pickle.
it's gonna,
Parking.
yeah, out of the parking lot, it's gonna create.
But it's gonna bring it to the intersection.
Yeah, it's just not a lot of room for that though, if, you know, if we're putting those amount of vehicles in there, even in the parking lot to stack and wait and allow somebody else to back out. I just see that all getting jammed up where if it would continue north and that Murray Road would theoretically continue along there and get rid of a couple stalls on that
talking
end,
along
they could just
here.
shoot out that way and then relieve
Do what?
some congestion.
He's talking along here.
We can look at,
Yeah.
There's a kind of.
Is that a crazy idea?
Only
No, I
one.
don't think
Tell
it's a
me it
crazy
is, but-
idea. I just think it has to be.
Fence is up here, right?
And it's right
Right.
next
Fit,
to
will
it.
it fit?
Yeah.
But if you
yeah,
open it up,
as part of the,
then they'll come out of there and they'll come
did
down
meet
here
with
and
the
they'll be
pickle
right. They'll all be
and
coming into this.
actually that idea didn't even come up, so.
Well, no, I think he was talking about crossing the trail to get back onto Lower Cohen.
I don't think,
I only
maybe we're
recommend
asking.
you just extend that north and bring it back into Lower Cullen, is that kind of what you're talking?
Well, it already comes out. You just run the road completely parallel with the trail until it pops out. Right where you turn into the community center
Yeah.
or the fire hall or whatever, that's already teed up for it on that end, and it's just that corridor.
But then you would run all the way
Yeah.
to the pickle parking lot, is that what you mean? Along the
Yeah,
fence
from the
there?
pickle parking lot to the entrance into the
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
center.
Yeah,
Well, one thing that I've heard from people who use the ball field is that the ball field fence is short. And, balls, especially in, well, everywhere, tend to fly out of that ball field pretty easily when it's being used. So you're gonna have cars right up against the fence unless you create a screen.
also the ball field, because it is undersized
Yeah.
and stuff, is not heavily used like a lot of other ball fields.
From
I
what I,
mean,
yeah, from
you
what
know,
I heard
the-
is that it can't get certain tournaments because of the size.
Correct. So it already limits the amount of use because of that. So I don't know. But same thing, that's just a higher netting maybe to put along there. I think that would be an easy, but I don't know. I don't think it's a bad plan, but it's already very congested as everyone knows there. And I just think some of this might add to the congestion. You know, it's, you know, safer. So we're trading safer for more congested.
Tom, do you know, is there any long-term plan in expanding the ball field as it sits to make it a
I don't recall seeing anything that Amber had showing that fence moving towards the trail.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that they weren't looking at that. I would have to ask.
How short is it?
It's like 15 or 20 feet short, is from what I understand.
If that fence weren't moving, if you go back there sometime, you'll see that there's a couple pylons on the community center road blocking people from driving through there, cause I believe they were
Right.
in years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
And so it doesn't get more congested, maybe out of the Pickle parking lot, you only make it a one-way,
Sure.
Oh,
narrow, and so it just has to relieve the pressure, people can't come back up it.
Yeah, make it an exit only.
Yeah, exit only.
That's what I thought you were gonna do. That would make sense.
Right.
However, if we do that, now we lose our snow storage.
well,
Well,
we could make,
can you close it in the winter and still put snow there? And this is a one-way from May 1st to October 31st, and then you park snow there the rest of the winter and put up a barricade?
I mean, we do have some other places we could potentially push the snow. It's just that one's been really convenient for us, but yeah, I mean, there's options. I just to be aware that that would be one downfall of doing this, but I'm not against the idea of having that northbound or actually it's just separate parking. lot.
these are the things that I guess that we're all looking for is
Yeah.
questions, changes, ideas. And then we can look at it and get back to the team of people who have been working on this. Well, do you want to move on to the next option?
Yep.
So what we're showing here is a mini roundabout. A mini roundabout is much smaller than a typical roundabout like the one at County Road 8 Kane. This roundabout can be driven over by vehicles if necessary. So that round circle median in the middle there is a surmountable curb that's maybe 3 or 4 inches tall. That, I mean, it can be lower than that even. That larger trucks, anything can drive right over it if they want to. What we've noticed is that even school buses, they'll try to go around the radius, but if they can't make it, they drive up on the curb or up on the median, and it's no big deal. So that's the center island there. The diameter of the center circle, like I said, is probably about 40 feet in diameter. Some of the traffic studies, about accidents and stuff like that have proven that these mini roundabouts are safer for drivers and pedestrians. It really minimizes the amount of conflicts that a driver or a pedestrian has to deal with when you're going through an intersection. So let's say you're going northbound on Main Street and you come up to the roundabout. Well, the first thing that you're gonna do when you come up to the roundabout, about 25 feet back from the roundabout is gonna be a pedestrian crossing. So now you have to be able to, as a driver, you just have to see the pedestrians that are on either side of the road, whether they're coming through. At that point, you really don't have to worry about cars yet. Then you go through that point, and now you have to make a decision. Are you gonna get into the roundabout, or are you gonna make a right, or whatever, and you can go around. So it just becomes a for vehicles, they'll stay probably outside of the center island area. And they'll probably just stay and go around. Some of the larger vehicles like big semi or something like that might have to just, some of the turns for a semi, like with the large one, WB 62, this big trailer, they're gonna have a hard time making some of the right turns on this. But they can swing out, and like the little pork chop medians in between there, those are in between like eastbound and westbound lanes or north and southbound. Those are there to help channelize the driver so that he kind of gets directed in the right angle to make it into the roundabout and go around the curve. And it's also a place where pedestrians can rest or stop as they're going across if somebody's coming from the other direction. So they're designed to basically hold, I don't know, 6, 8 feet across, so there's a little bit of space there for them to stop or something like that, if they're, especially if they have a stroller or even a bike, I guess. See. Some of the other options, or some of the other things with the roundabout is that because of the design of the roundabout, you really can't, it eliminates parking where this median is. So where those 4 medians are as they're coming in, parking isn't really allowed there next to the curb. So it does eliminate some of the parking in front of the Main Street Ale House and at the Chamber building. But like I said, they're much safer, and it also eliminates some of the parking on the north side of Nisswa Avenue and Lower Cumberland. Excuse me.
It looks like the roundabout eliminates quite a bit more parking than the other design. Is that true or accurate?
True.
Yeah.
Do you have a count on that?
Yeah.
Like,
How much do we lose?
This was 15 instead of 3.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah, so quite a few.
It's quite a bit.
Basically, all of the ones in the Main Street Ale House would have to be removed. The parallel parking on Nisswa and a few of the stalls in front of, all the way down past the park, or the post office. And from the FOI meeting, that was the thing that they didn't like. They didn't like the loss of parking in front of their building, even though we are adding more parking over in the pickle area. The loss of parking in front of their building, they really didn't like.
Yeah, that's a lot of parking to lose on that street for every business. I mean,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it should
post
go
office,
to
too.
the parking on the south side of Nisswa was pretty borderline as it was, because there's no curb there at all, or no sidewalk along there currently. And so we had cars there, people have to walk out the main road there, you know, and not a very safe area to start off with, so.
Right.
Counting those parking spots is kind of iffy to start off with, keep that in mind. And they got a lot of special landscaping there, you see the red lines there, that's our current right of way. And so there's a lot going on there that's out of the right of way.
right.
Well,
Oh, something else you can do with the mini roundabout in this case is, like we talked about before, you can color the concrete. You can make the interior of the mini roundabout whatever you want. You can put a stencil of something there. Let's see. Like I said, I think the biggest issue, the nice thing about a roundabout is that it eliminates conflict. It's safer for the pedestrians and the driving public.
Well,
And, pardon?
why do you feel that's safer for pedestrians than the other intersection?
Mainly because of the amount of, the driver's only coming, the driver that's coming up there to the crosswalk, if they stay in the crosswalk, the driver only has one place to see the pedestrian, and it's right on his right or left. But when you come up to a normal intersection, you've got to look across the dividing line over to the next other side of the roadway or to the other side. So they've got a lot more conflicts with pedestrians and other vehicles.
Well, I think all you have to do is look at the one they put in over at Grandview. You put it in, I think.
Yeah.
And see what you did there to protect the pedestrians. Now, I realize it's not a mini, but it's really hairy for a pedestrian to use that even now. And it's got all the lights and everything. And you do that in downtown Nisswa, which people are swarming around. It isn't gonna work.
Well, but the other thing you have to keep in mind too is the distance that they're traveling is substantially reduced. Cause you've got a safety zone here for pedestrians, so the amount of pavement that they're crossing is substantially less than what they have today, so that adds to the safety as well.
Yeah, that's on all,
part of the thing behind Grandview too.
You think you're crossing, less paving there, you mean?
Oh, yeah, a lot less.
Yeah.
it's basically one lane of traffic that you're crossing before you get into a safe zone, the median. Or you just keep going and nobody coming.
Well, I don't know if you've been around Nisswa much when they're busy, but the pedestrians pay no attention whatsoever to cars, period. And,
Or where they walk in a cross.
or where they're,
So
they,
it's,
they pay no attention. And that's one of the so-called advantages of downtown Nisswa. Because people cross everywhere, anywhere, anytime. That'd be a terrible place in my opinion.
It's always been that way.
it's always been that way. Yeah, and so my question is, you know, for the safety and the crosswalk, right, we wanna have safety and stuff too, but is the way that the town functions and set up, is it just irrelevant no matter where the crosswalk is? Because I would believe nobody's gonna necessarily follow them anyhow.
I agree.
You know, they're still gonna walk kitty corner from dinner at the ale house. They're gonna do the shortest line right up and over that new roundabout right to the pickle for their after dinner drink. As they do, you can watch it. Shortest point, that's where they're gonna go.
That's what'll happen.
Um,
I like it, but.
I mean, yeah, I like concept, the roundabout there. I just had another question. I don't know, has the chamber or anybody from that group given any feedback about both of these designs, about kind of isolating the pickle parking lot from the street? I'm only thinking the events and the kind of uniqueness of the town, you know, the lighting of the luminaries, the barbecue cook-off, the different events where that City Hall street is closed, the tents are set up, you know, and that's used more as a large parking lot with that curb and getting those functions in and out. Are there any drawbacks to any of these designs for the functions that the city has going on a annual basis?
We haven't gotten feedback from the chamber. We've talked to Boys with Main Street, we've talked to the Historical Society, and we've talked to Terry Walling with the Pickle. So those are the three groups that have seen this so far.
Harry did not have a problem with the median and aligning the openings, when we talked with him. I mean, obviously, he'd probably rather have it just a big sea of pavement, but I think he understands why we're changing it.
Yeah, sure. I don't wanna take all the historic land, you know, people's land and stuff, but has it ever been considered for that Nisswa Avenue to really cut the corner and sweep to Lower Roy, going only towards like the hardware store and just creating a T intersection at that corner, and everything coming off the highway has to go north, and then allow for mini roundabout, a turnaround or something already at the end of the fire hall for people get spun around quick and head back into town the other direction, and just leave that a T intersection. Does that preserve all our downtown parking, eliminate congestion? The flip side of it, the historical society is gonna lose that green lawn corner space there, you know, and kind of swing that up through the yard sign, but just, you can't come up and make a right-hand turn, you know, it eliminates them from the awkward connection of the intersection and directs them more down that direction, you know. Is everyone,
Would you peel off to go with north? About at the alley, or?
well, I don't know.
That's what you were saying?
Yeah, if you go back to the other slide, I can. You know how that, basically what it would do is it would kind of, you know, from the old read about chiropractor, you know, you turn that road and then you straighten out Nisswa Avenue.
Or are you saying you wanna see this come up like this? Not like this, so you gotta.
Yeah, so that intersection would be closed and that they would be basically offset.
How would you split the traffic go on that,
Well, I don't know, maybe it'd be right or left, but if there's enough room. If there'd be enough room to just take this road, close this intersection right here. Take this road and move it right over to here. And so this would be a T. There won't be a straight cross, then it's turn here, turn, you know, whatever, but this all gets closed off. And it comes out over here.
Oh,
So you basically, two intersections like this.
Yeah, but they're just
Right.
offset, and then it doesn't treat this, you know, here, and this just comes and turns over here, and then you gain a farther distance. Actually, you gain a lot of parking for boys. The downfall is they do lose this green corner, you know, here, I don't know, maybe something could be done and reworked, but does that help all of that to just make it more simple? Is that an option?
We turn that whole area into parking lot.
Good, I don't know.
You know, I mean.
I don't know, does that
That's
help?
what we're talking about here, yeah.
Well, I think there's options to talk about, it just depends on what your priorities are, I know. The 371 changing, now you have two accesses into town, right? This is one of them. So by doing that, are you changing drivers' opinions on coming to that? Would you see that as a detriment?
No, I mean, drivers can still come off 371 there. It just gets rid of the awkward intersection right there by the restaurant. And what it does is it preserves the downtown parking and probably actually increases the parking for
So
that area maybe.
I've suggested that too, and I think the main issue we've ran into so far is that obviously the historical society is against that idea.
Right, which rightfully so, they will be the group that's against it. And, but, you know, does it solve a lot of our questions? I mean, I like the roundabout idea probably the best too, but I'm not necessarily in favor of losing that much downtown parking and, you know, doing all that. It seems like maybe it'd make it safer. I don't know.
And this will deal with traffic best, this is the way to lose the congestion.
Right, it is,
Other ways you're going to have congestion, so it's just,
right.
is the parking important or is your traffic? So,
but you know, we have congestion anyway.
Right,
It's congested all the time.
right. So, yeah, with the roundabout, I don't know that traffic's gonna move faster. And then also too, because nobody does do the roundabout, I would say that having it a little congested, keeping the speeds down is actually safer then. And increasing more parking, that's where, you know, the opinion of the people in town or whatever in there to increase parking, that's always been an issue, but yeah, this is going to keep the traffic going faster, but do we want it to go faster?
the design speed, I guess, of these roundabouts is 10 to 15 miles an hour.
Right.
So they're not gonna be going through there really fast. Well,
Yeah, and don't
Theoretically.
compare this to that larger roundabout that's.
Right.
twice the speed on that larger roundabout too.
Well, roundabouts do a great job of moving traffic, but they aren't for moving people.
well, the nice thing about this roundabout is cars are gonna be able to make a U-turn here. A semi truck, no, these are not designed for that. They would have to find a different way to do that maneuver.
That's probably where the people would make their U-turn to go into the post office, which of
Right.
course they can't do because there won't be parking. That's what they would try to do. I would.
Right, yeah, I would too.
Well,
mean-
that's made to do that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't even,
ultimately, there's not a great option. It's you know, what do we do with parking and then traffic flow? I think this is,
Tom, has anybody ever approached the Historical Society on that?
On what?
On using a piece of their property there?
Yeah, I don't think they're really open to that. We would probably have to approach that with them again if you wanted to seriously consider that. The one thing that they said that they would maybe consider is the city owns the property that the caboose and the buildings sit on, that depot building. If at the city's expense, we were willing to move that over to their property, they would consider that, and that would allow us to move this roundabout up to the north and east. I don't know what that would, I guess the feeling was is that it might give us back some room for parking at Main Street. I don't know how much we would gain back to make that worth the expense of moving all that building and,
Actually, that idea has some merit,
but
the one that he brought.
The roundabout would have to go to the north, well, basically like, yeah, like to the northeast. But that median that's right by on Nisswa Avenue would have to move further that way also too, and angle away so that we can get that parking back. Right.
I think we gotta gain more parking. See, if we leave us where it's at, what's affecting us here is these people here, when they back out, these people gotta be able to see them. And so it's a safety issue for here. But if we turn around, they move this over here, and then we put more parking this way, up here, then we gain a lot more spots up here doing so. So,
Yeah, you wouldn't have to move it that far north either, you know, just make it come in at a 90-degree angle.
You'd gain all
Be a
this,
key
you'd,
intersection instead of a crossing.
moving the,
It'd be a safer intersection.
not following.
you see, so
What?
But basically,
Yeah.
what he said, I don't know if you'd even have to swing it that far north.
Spot back here.
I don't know if you'd gain the spots on Nisswa Avenue by the
Over
main.
here.
You'd
I
have to,
don't think we gain much here.
that thing would have
Run
to,
into that problem of people
Yeah.
around the corner
We still have a lot of
and
it.
back in the.
and that median would still be there.
Yeah. And now keep in mind, these medians can be only 3 inches high, they don't have to be a full 6-inch grade.
Or the median's even necessary, or could we just have the circle in the middle? Could we eliminate the medians?
No, the medians still have
The
to be there.
medians are necessary, like to channelize or to make the people, to find people
We
where they're
can't
supposed
just
to.
use paint?
Well, but then you would lose your traffic calming.
Mhm.
So I think, Joe, that kind of helps with lowering the speeds a little bit.
Sure, yeah. The only reason maybe I bring that up is, fire truck emergency coming around there with those medians. We'd be driving over them. Sometimes it's, especially when town's congested, to get out one way or the other, generally we'll go through town. Town's congested. We say kaputs with it, we go right down that road and we will still illegally cross there to get out on the highway. There's car wreck, something like that, town's jammed up. We are still gonna go that way 10 times out of 10, lights and sirens to get out, to get ourselves going on the highway the quickest.
You wouldn't put in that roundabout then if you move that street, would you? There wouldn't be any reason for it.
Oh, if you angle the street over,
Yeah. Then you have like a T intersection.
yeah, the only issue that I can see with the two T's intersections is that they're very close together. So you have
Yeah,
two
but-
intersections that are close together, which might make it a little bit more difficult to make left turns and stuff, but
Yeah, it might,
I mean, the problem with that is, this person comes this way, has to go this way.
yeah.
right.
Sometimes.
And
That's
that,
where-
that would be not really good, but on the other hand, it'd slow everybody up.
Well, and, if you're coming off 371 and you're coming up, to Nisswa Avenue, most of the time you're coming in to get to downtown. So they're gonna get there and what are they gonna do?
So I guess one of the things too, before we went too far, thinking this all the way through, MnDOT, has the whole proposal and everything where they want to close all these accesses down. So for us as a city spending a lot of time, money, effort on this intersection, I believe from the meetings we've been with MinDOT and stuff, that, you know, it's only probably a point of time where that access is even closed down more or limited. And talk about accidents or whatever, that intersection out on the highway, that is a common spot for us to go to a car accident or a car wreck, you know, kind of like down there. And so that's a high thing. And I don't know if anyone has any feedback from MinDOT, but if we took the initiative and closed that down with MinDOT, would they help pay for this, shut it down and just turn that all into parking and leave it be, and we solve the issue? And it directs everyone to the stoplights?
We have not pursued that.
Yeah, generally what they talk about is these driveways and so on, the crossovers on 371, that they're, but generally they talk about it and they don't do many of them. Every 20 years they.
You know, like, I'm not sure, but I thought that study that they're working on kind of stopped right at the signal.
Yeah.
I don't know
they
if it
didn't
made
come
it down
far.
this far. Huh?
Didn't I thought they went to Jenkins, didn't they?
No.
I think it
Be-
That
stopped.
wouldn't be a place to park though, you know.
Because from, you know, like down at, you know, Nisswa Marine or the subway there and all those intersections, those are all ones that they've designated closing all through downtown Nisswa. And as far as like accident counts, this one here has a high accident count rating at it too. Yeah. Yeah, at Nisswa Avenue. Yeah, that's also a high count area for us.
Was that because they can make left turns coming southbound on 371?
Yeah.
Well, can they?
No, they can't.
No, they can't, but even still now, I don't know what goes on there, but it's, they're jumping the curb, people are trying to go the wrong direction, they get down there, they get.
Down by 371, you mean?
Yeah, right on the highway.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, there's motorcycle wreck this last summer, a car wreck, rear end there, I mean, I can think of 4 of them just like that recently, within the last year.
Yeah, cause I don't know that they would change that intersection, cause they've already cut out the left turning movement coming south.
Right.
You know, that's where you get your biggest accidents.
Right.
For the highest number of accidents.
Yeah.
But my question is, you know, all of this goes back to budget too, you know, shut that off and talk to MinDOT and just use that all for parking. It doesn't interfere with the businesses. It helps the traffic flow. It gets everybody down to the stoplights. They gotta run one way or the other. It allows for more parking for town, and does it save us a bunch of money?
Tom, when do you have to pull the trigger on this to move it ahead?
Well, so this is tied into the 27 road bond, so.
Okay.
Um,
Is this the first time we've seen, these designs?
yes,
Okay.
so these are concepts. I just
Right.
want to reiterate this.
Design concepts, right.
None of these options and nothing that we've talked about here tonight are locked in concrete,
Yeah,
gonna happen. So especially anybody that might be watching this on
Twen-
YouTube.
27 road bond is
We-
what your plan right
Yeah,
now.
so we're just looking at ideas for
Yep.
what to do with this intersection. We're talking about some options within these two concepts of how to work with this intersection and nobody's had the perfect idea. And some of it is, you know, to use that green space for the historical society. I mean, it seems so obvious to try to straighten that road out. I don't know that we can solve this in time for the 27 road bond. That is a potential hang up with this. Because there's a lot of stakeholders involved with this.
Well, the 27 road bond initially stopped at Maine,
Yeah,
but you can't really design City Hall Street without knowing what we're gonna do at Maine.
Right.
Now or in the future,
right.
because there's a really good chance if we don't plan for what's gonna happen in the future, we may not be able to put it all in. I mean, we can put anything in, but it would cost more.
And the catch 22 is that City Hall Street, the pavement is in such terrible condition, we can't afford to wait another 5 years to figure out what would be the best option for this intersection. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. I think we have to figure out this intersection in the quickest way possible. And maybe this is one step now, and then we look towards, some other steps that could be done with a future project further down the road. Is there some hybrid of these options that we've looked at tonight that could be used that get us partway there?
Might make a difference too with the post office. Are they going to move or are they what are they going to do?
So what I've heard, and this came out of our stakeholders meeting, this post office is expected to move by May. Now, I can't say that for sure. My source can't say that for sure. But that's
Is it
the
down there
latest.
where the land surveyor was
Yes.
down there?
Yeah, so there, as I understand it, the post office is paying a lease in both spots. Here and then down there.
Oh, really?
So you'd think they would be in their interest to figure that out. But until it happens, I guess we have to proceed as if it's here, gonna be here.
What were the votes from the property owners on which concept there?
So of the three, of the Historical Society, Main Street Grill and the Pickle, they would prefer to go with this version. As opposed to the roundabout. Obviously, we didn't talk too much about doing anything in the Historical Society's property there. I don't think they were really open to that. The most that they were willing to do is, like I suggested, we could move the depot building and the caboose possibly. If that helped out, largely because that's our property anyway. They're there by an easement, as I understand it.
And the most important issue being the parking.
Parking is what seems to motivate all three of them.
Yep.
The Foys for sure.
Yeah. Foy's the Foy's corner is the hardest one. They've looked at other options to try to get parking, behind them to the west in that, next to the hotel. That's not available to them. And so, they hate to lose anything that they have. This particular option, yeah, they know that they lose three, but they recognize that there's some safety things here that have to be addressed. So they supported this option if we were to go ahead forward. So I think what we would be looking for from this group is, to me, there's three options currently on the table. There's leave the intersection the way it is, either this option or the roundabout, are the concepts. Is there one of those three concepts that we should continue to pursue? Or do we, go back to the drawing board and have another concept drawn up like Joe was suggesting, where we move that on there, but then we're gonna have to go back and talk to Historical Society with that concept. And
I would like to see that.
get their feedback on that.
I would like to see that.
One of the issues with the Historical Society regarding that property was they use that property for, I don't know, sell things.
That celebration they have.
Yeah. And that's, they're kind of a moneymaker for them.
That's a good
And,
point, Bill.
One of the things they wanted us to do with any of the things that we do on Lower Cullen Road is provide access over the curb and the sidewalk for vehicles to access their property. And even through the fence and stuff, so we end up putting some type of gate in there.
And they like the idea of moving everything over there so they could fence it, so they could charge,
Yes,
cause right now they're not making any money off of buildings.
right.
I would like to see Joe's concept, investigate a little more. There might be some negatives there that we're not seeing or I'm not seeing right now. But I think it's worth looking at.
Yeah, I guess it would help to see an actual drawing of it, even if it
Yeah, and
turns out to be a
there may
dud.
be some pros and cons that we aren't thinking about.
Well, we can certainly look at that. I just don't think it would typically recommend about changing that traffic flow that drastically, because that will have an impact on traffic.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not the world's best, but downtown Nisswa is unique anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Does it help any traffic flow or anything to do anything with, I don't know, I'll call it the road, the parking lot, just parallel behind the chamber building there that just cuts through from the pickle? Does the city even own that? Is that privately owned? Do we know?
Say that again.
Well, if we go
Where that
parallel,
access.
yeah, and we do something with one-way traffic or something through town and change the parking, you know, by allowing people
nice piece. of
behind
road.
the chamber to flow one direction, does that help at all? I don't know.
I heard it, was it still going?
We,
Asking an idea.
started to look at some of those kind of things when we were talking about the downtown plan from, say, about a year ago. And any kind of discussion of one ways was not looked at very favorably. Cause we had talked about the alleyway, you know, say behind the pretty good shopping and stuff too. Is there ways to move traffic one way through there? And we started to look at those ideas and they just weren't well received.
Right.
Well, is
Better-
the, that area where the parking is, where they do the turtle race, is that a road right away?
I know
Yeah, that's City Street
personally that
where the.
Yeah, and I
track is.
suppose then the whole road has to be shut down during the turtle races, you know, so that just doesn't work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess of the three, of what we've looked at so far, I think probably the conventional look is feels like the best that we can do, this thing right here. And it was one that was supported by the three stakeholders that we've talked to so far. It would probably be a good idea for us to get some feedback from the chamber if they have an opinion one way or another.
Mhm.
We could have a drawing made that would show us using that property for the historical society, I guess. I do think that they're gonna be pretty adamant against that. But, you know, if you wanna explore that, we can.
at least look at it.
So what do we need to do tonight to,
I think right now,
Move on.
what we were looking for is feedback on these concepts, and coming into the meeting, I would have thought we would have gotten some, consensus that this was where we wanted to go, was the drawing you see up there right now. I feel like the roundabout option was kind of nixed by the people that have looked at it so far. And they had the most to lose by that going in. But we did want to show it as another way of handling this. I think we're very limited in what we can do because of the existing buildings and the constraints of the highway and some other stuff, the trail. I don't know.
Well, you brought up earlier about that road access here. Should we look at maybe that too, maybe just to see see if we can fit in there, or what's.
Right.
best?
Yeah, I think so. The only other thing, you know, just I'll say segmenting the parking from the pickle from the road where right now it's just open. Just thinking about people in the summertime, it is very common during the weekday at any point in time that the pickle parking lot is used for all our visitors and tourists to park with that boat, that camper, that trailer, because it's the only spot to park an oversized vehicle with a camper, and they pull in there. And so I just worry about those curbs, allowing people to access that, because then if that's not open, then where do they go? They're going down to the school, to the Catholic church, you know, then town really doesn't even have anywhere for an oversized vehicle to pull in and park. And that's pretty common to see parked in there.
We need that road going that way, one way, with like parking alongside, but just for alongside vehicle.
Yeah, something like that would be great.
Well, how many? So right now, where do they park in the pickle parking lot along the west edge?
They'll park along like where the bocce ball, where you've proposed the new parking, they'll park along there, or they'll kind of park out in front. I'm sure you kind of seen it, just out in the middle where kind of the no man's land where they're off the road, but they can easily swing back on. That's actually probably a preferred parking. I think a lot of them are nervous trying to back out of there, and so they'll just pull over like where that curb's at or would be proposed.
Yeah.
If you've noticed, that's a common.
Yeah,
spot.
that's true.
Park on his west side.
Yeah, yep.
Along here.
Nope. Well, they'll park there, but more they'll park this direction.
Right there.
Yeah, right there. And they'll park parallel with City Hall Street so they can just get back in and keep driving forward right down the street, whatever way they've come in, so they don't have to try and back any sort of thing up either. But that's a super commonly used spot for people like that.
Of course, now if we put in all the sidewalks and everything. And then if they had to park over by the church. Now it's easier for them to walk back to the pickle too, I guess.
Yeah, it's just,
Oh, is it it's a give one, give it here and take it there, or.
If you had a curb there, why, it might keep them off, but otherwise it plugs access to the pickle for trucks and so on too, that serve the pickle. They park in their parallel.
Yeah, we provided a, entrance for the trucks to back in towards his, loading dock at the, would that be? Yeah. Yeah. And they did say they got some larger vehicles, so they can just drive in the parking lot, and turn around.
But in that particular instance, if to address the concern that Joe raised, we wouldn't have to put curb in there, would we?
On the east side?
Down the north side.
Okay, this
Yeah.
area?
right, yeah, that's what I'm talking about removing.
No, we wouldn't have to. We were just trying to,
We're trying
the
to-
idea is, I think the main reason for putting that curb in there as an island, like a raised island, was so that we could have a pathway on the north side of City Hall Street, or a sidewalk, to get from Church to basically to Lower Cullen Road. To basically be connecting the sidewalk that's right in front of City Hall Street,
Right.
giving them a place to walk.
Way I see people parking there, wouldn't you think they could just park on either side of that island? Or you park here, going to there,
Yeah, they could. Yeah, it's just,
you know. And if we had a way for them to escape, they might just park in and off here.
yeah, and then just keep on driving out. Yeah,
And we'd change it, I mean, it would change their habits.
right.
I don't think it would keep them from accessing. I don't know if there's ways to optimize how they can get in and out, maybe a little bit.
So when you're seeing that happen, there's evidently not a lot of parking going on in pickle then?
Generally, it's during the days, people coming through town with the boat, the camper, whatever. They pull in the shop, go to a restaurant, whatever they're doing in town, but they need a spot to park, and generally that's, you see it here, you see it down at the school in the summer, they're parking down there. But yeah, otherwise there's no other parking for anybody like that, even a big RV. That's where they're parking, the school, the church, or there.
Yeah, I've seen people parking down by the Dairy Queen on the road.
Yeah, sometimes along the shoulder of the road. Yep, you're right down there.
Well,
So did you want a preference right now from the committee, or?
That's where I think we wanna look at some other concepts on this, and we'll come back to this next month. with some of these things that we've talked about, just so we can see them on a drawing.
Yeah.
But of what you've seen so far, if you had to pick, do nothing, this or that roundabout, where would you be?
Personally, I'd be here.
I'd be here, this traditional.
I would,
Yeah, I think, you know, for the parking, I'd be here, but also too, I would say before we went too far, I think feedback from the chamber, you know, from Kelly over there would be important to see what their feedback would be on it.
Do you think if we put some of these other ideas together, that maybe we should have some kind of an open house where we talk about this?
I
with
think
the-
that would be a great idea.
That way we can get a little bit broader feedback on
Yeah.
some of these things that we're talking about. Maybe we could do that as early as, April or May.
I think this is one of those issues where, yeah, public input would be very useful. But that said, not to turn into another recycling center debacle.
or another Baxter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is scheduled for the 26th road bond, and once again, to be fiscally responsible with everybody's money from whoever.
Yeah.
What I would need as a council member, you know, is from WSN or UTOM or whoever, the decision needs to be made now. So we got time to acquire the land, we're not rushing stuff, and we have X amount of months to work with, and then that information come back to the council. We gotta make decision in 3 months. Yep.
So, I'm just gonna look ahead a little bit. I happen to have a calendar here for the project, what we've been talking about so far. So, I'm just gonna try to get to the 27 project. So the timeline for the 27 road bond right now. So we're sitting in the February to April time period. And so we're still working on, 30% plans in Grandview and also this downtown area, but we want to move this to a 100% plan. So that's why we're looking at these concepts tonight. In order for us to stay on schedule, so we would like to be at 90% plans with this project somewhere between July and September. And the reason we need to be there is to acquire right of way. We have to give the city attorney a bigger window to acquire right of way with this project than what we did with the road bond that we just approved for 26. So we want to be at a point where we're deciding a treatment for this intersection by, I would say, July.
You don't mean design, just concept. Concept by then.
Well, I think we're gonna be at a 90% plan by then,
Okay.
so we'll have wanted to have
Okay.
gotten feedback, say, like I suggested in April or May.
I would say,
That the engineer can take and turn into a 90% plan by July.
I would say the sooner the better.
So-
April instead of May, if we can. do
Okay.
it.
Say that too, because, you know, if we're just talking about drawing up another concept.
That ain't gonna take very long.
That shouldn't be that time consuming, but.
For me, it's the notification to get an open house.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I don't think I can do that for March. I think that's just too soon. So we'd be talking April.
do the first-
I think the April would be the earliest. I would we could have a special meeting for that sometime in April. I would have to get with some people and figure out a good time for that. First couple of weeks in April, hopefully.
yeah,
would
like,
work.
I think we can have drawings ready for the open house fairly in a week or two.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, are you gonna proceed with having Widseth look at that off of Nisswa Avenue? So that'll be one,
Mhm.
and then the traditional, and then the roundabout.
Yeah, so we'll add in all the things that we've talked about. So they'll look at, can we have that north?
And Murray,
south
is that Murray
access?
Street or Murray Avenue, whatever that behind the ball field?
Yeah, so we'll look at that. They'll probably, so we got that. We're gonna look at, making the two
Taking the
key
Historical
intersections.
Society, yeah.
So you're gonna wait 2 months for that?
No.
You said
We
you-
might be able to look at that, at those concepts here in March,
Right.
but where we're gonna open that up to the bigger public would probably be at an April meeting.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm saying that, they could still come to our Public Works meeting in March and offer opinion if they like. But I think, so I get time to advertise it and get it noticed. I would need to probably be in that early part of April.
Has this been on the Chamber of Commerce agenda for their meetings yet? Okay, so that definitely has to happen, right?
Yeah, so I can get a hold of the chamber, probably sometime either next week or the following to show them these concepts and talk
Okay.
about this.
Yeah. Why so move with that?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
I,
Okay, that's where we'll go.
So when do you need those concepts back?
Uh,
When do you get together?
So I would say we'd want those concepts for the regular Public Works meeting, which would be
In March?
March, last Wednesday, which is 25th.
The only thing I'd add with any one of these concepts though is to move that gazebo, or not the gazebo, the caboose and the building and stuff with all the concepts during this, to indeed move that on to their property and get it off the Nisswa property. Is what my recommendation is. That way they could make money on it. Also too, that's Nisswa money. You know, if the pickle wants to have some sort of other little event activity there with the bocce ball or with the chamber, any festivals, it also gives us more usability with our land to be more flexible. So I would say that would be my thing with this whole process to have that happen. That would be my,
So when
My
we're doing
goal.
our concepts, we can use that property if we need to for the,
that's what I would say. Every concept will have that moved.
okay.
That way they could make money off of it, have it on their property.
Sure wish we had a little bit of a idea of what that would cost.
To move it?
Yeah.
Works can do that.
To move.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's a train, just.
Well, shoot,
On it
tracks up
one
there.
piece.
Well, does everyone remember when it sat farther uptown?
No.
It's already been moved to there. Yeah, when I was a little kid, it sat uptown.
Huh.
It probably moved there, I don't know. I remember when it was moved, but yeah, it used to sit farther uptown.
The train car would be one thing, the building would be another, but I suppose you could almost swing a crane with both of them if.
Yeah,
Well, they make house movers, I guess.
What are they talking about, the depot?
Oh, power lines are right there, I think.
Talking about the depot?
Well, they're behind there.
yeah,
I remember when it was out behind Boberg's lumberyard
right.
People?
in the woods, yeah.
Really?
But yeah, there used to be that other one uptown by the
I think so.
donut.
I know there's stuff
Yeah.
behind.
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah, but it used to be out
Like
in the
behind
woods
their
out
new
there
building,
behind
or
lumberyard.
the,
Long.
between the trail.
And I think the matching thing, I think
Yeah.
Kelvin Wallin has that whole boxcar at his place that used to be uptown.
Now, is that currently sitting on tracks or is that just on concrete slab?
I think it's sitting on tracks. If I believe
This
it's
one
sitting on
here.
tracks.
Contract.
Yeah.
They did a nice job of
Yeah, it looks nice and they've put a lot of money into it in the last year. It looks nice. And
All right, I think this number 5, just to kind of move on to our next agenda item, just so we can wrap up the meeting. This hill crossing light discussion. So I think I'm just gonna leave this as more of a food for thought, and we'll come back to this in March. What the council wanted us to do was to look at a policy for when and how we add lights. Cause what we feel is happening is that as we've added them, people are hearing about that and we're getting more and more requests to add streetlights and they wanna have a criteria for when and how do we add them. The latest one we have is Hills Crossing has a couple spots that they would like to have streetlights added. One would be at Lower Cullen and Hills Crossing right up there. And then there would be a second one, up closer to their buildings where Rusty's development peeled off. So that, if you can be just thinking about that for next month, I'll put it back on the agenda. I'd like to just table that. And then put together some criteria for when and how we would add lights.
Is there like a model, streetlight policy that you can come up with or?
That's what I'm gonna look for.
Okay,
See if there's anything. Right now, we've been just adding them whenever people ask.
okay. Sounds good.
All right, and then the last thing I have on the agenda is the 2026 road bond update, and this is really quick. Basically, just understanding that the council has approved the bond, and we're gonna be opening bids on that tomorrow.
Yep.
So hopefully we get back a good price. It sounds like there's a lot of interest in the project, and we will have a summary presented to the city council in March. March 10th is what I have on my, oh,
No problem.
what's that?
That shouldn't be a problem as long as, yeah, as long as everything is, good
Yeah,
as far as the bidding and
How
the.
many bids do you expect though?
Well, last time I looked, there were 4 or 5 prime contractors, which is pretty good for a new job. Well,
so the bid opening is tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Here?
yes.
You gonna be here, Joe?
Might have to.
With that, I just have the FYI items. I'm gonna be, after the bid opening tomorrow morning, I'm gonna be out of town until Monday. So, if anybody has any questions about the bids, you'll have to get a hold of me on Monday or get a hold of Bill, I guess. Otherwise, any issues or any comments from any of the committee members?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Gentlemen.